The twilight stained the sky with hues of orange and violet, a solitary spectacle for Joao, whose eyes, once vibrant and full of plans, now reflected the melancholy of a life that seemed to have reached a silent, unwanted end. Seated on the cold veranda of a house that no longer belonged to him in spirit, he observed the street's comings and goings, each child's laughter, each hand-in-hand couple, a poignant reminder of what he had lost. It wasn't the house itself, an old mansion redolent of mothballs and dusty memories, that afflicted him, but the absence of human warmth, the void left by the departure of those who had once sworn to love and be loved. Joao, a man in his early 70s, with wrinkles that told stories of toil and resilience, now found himself consumed by a different kind of malady, one not fought with medicine or rest, but with the very essence of existence, abandonment. The word hung in his mind, heavy and implacable, like a sentence passed without trial. He recalled the last time his daughter, Anna, had visited him, not with the former affection, but with the haste of someone fulfilling an obligation, a distant gaze, a quick, cold embrace. The excuses were always the same: work, the children, prior commitments. But Joao, with an intuition sharpened by time and pain, perceived the truth behind the rehearsed words, the weariness of one carrying a burden, and he, a burden. The illness that had taken hold of his body, an insidious cancer that eroded his strength day by day, seemed to have accelerated the process of estrangement. As if his father's physical frailty were an uncomfortable mirror to Anna's own life, a projection of her own mortality and the responsibilities she feared. The betrayal came not with shouts or confrontations, but with the deafening silence of phones that no longer rang, of visits that became infrequent and, ultimately, non-existent. The house, once the stage for family celebrations and warmth, had transformed into a mausoleum of shattered hopes. This isn't merely another tale of a lonely old man. It's the story of Joao, a man who dedicated his life to forging a legacy of love and security for his family, only to discover that, in the twilight of his existence, his greatest treasure, his daughter, had cast him adrift. It's a profound dive into the complexities of familial bonds when confronted by illness, mortality, and the arduous choices of adult life. The question that arises is brutal in its simplicity. How can a father who gave his all, who bent over backwards with sacrifices, be left behind by the one he loved most? What happens when gratitude evaporates and love transforms into a burden? We will explore not just the pain of abandonment, but the strength inherent in human resilience, the capacity to find light even in the densest shadows. We will accompany Joao on his silent journey, a struggle not only against the cancer consuming him, but against the disillusionment threatening to extinguish the flame of his will to live. The camera, at this moment, zooms in on his weathered face, capturing the spark of something still burning, a flicker of hope refusing to be extinguished. Our narrative unfolds from a specific event, an amateur video captured in a moment of Joao's rare vulnerability and strength, which went viral on social media. Not due to cheap sensationalism, but because of the raw authenticity of his words, the disarming honesty in his gaze. This video, more than a simple recording, became a catalyst, an invitation for us to look beyond appearances, to the untold stories residing in the silent homes around us. It forces us to confront the harsh reality that, very often, those most in need of us are the most forgotten. The unique angle of this story lies in how Joao's suffering has become a mirror for society, exposing the fissures in our familial structures and the fragility of the bonds we believe to be unbreakable. What this video reveals is a universal truth about the human condition, the intrinsic need for belonging and the devastating impact of its absence. Joao's story serves as a profound call to reflection on what it truly means to care for those who raised us, on the responsibility we bear to reciprocate the love and sacrifice we've received. It's a family drama that resonates in countless homes, a reality often silenced by shame or the inability to articulate pain. The grip we seek here doesn't stem from contrived suspense, but from the deep identification the viewer will feel with the depicted emotions. Joao's vulnerability, his struggle against illness and abandonment, are universal themes that touch us all, in one way or another. We will follow his journey not only to understand what led him to this situation, but to witness his inner strength, his capacity to find purpose and a way to overcome even in the face of the most adverse circumstances. This is a screenplay that promises to move, inspire, and, above all, make us look at our own family relationships with fresh eyes. The sun had completely dipped below the horizon, and darkness enveloped the house in a chilling embrace. Joao, still on the veranda, felt a shiver that wasn't solely from a night's cold. It was the shiver of loneliness, of tomorrow's uncertainty. But, in that instant, something shifted. A slight movement in his hand, an almost imperceptible clench on an old photo album resting beside him. The images contained within, smiles from a distant past, from times when love seemed eternal, began to take on new life in his mind. Not as recollections of an irretrievable past, but as seeds of dormant strength. The camera focuses on his wrinkled hands, trembling slightly as they turn the pages. The night's silence was broken only by the soft rustle of turning pages, a murmur against the vast silence of abandonment. He knew the battle against cancer was arduous, but the fight against oblivion, against the pain of being left behind, was equally challenging. This was the starting point for a journey of resilience, a deep exploration of the human capacity to rise again, to find meaning and hope where all seemed lost. The story about to unfold is that of a man who, stripped of almost everything, discovers within himself the strength to reignite his own flame. Joao's life didn't pivot through some external miracle, but rather through a profound internal reassessment, catalyzed by the rediscovery of his own agency. The photo album, far more than a mere repository of memories, became a map of his own resilience. Each image, from his early married years, through Anna's childhood, to the more recent moments of his own failing health, served as a silent testament to his capacity for adaptation and overcoming. He began to realize that abandonment, while painful, did not erase the totality of his existence, nor did it nullify the achievements and loves that had shaped his journey. The strength to carry on would no longer stem from the anticipation of rescue, but from the affirmation of his own worth, independent of external validation. He then resolved to document his journey in audio, utilizing an old recorder he unearthed from a dusty box. He wasn't seeking fame or sympathy, but a personal record, a means of giving voice to his experience and, perhaps, of finding some form of catharsis. In the recordings, his voice, initially faltering with fragility, gained a steadiness as he recounted the minutiae of his daily routine, the small victories, like managing to prepare a simple meal or taking a short stroll in the garden. He began to detail the side effects of his treatment, the persistent pain, the overwhelming fatigue, but crucially, he interspersed these descriptions with reflections on the ephemeral nature of life and the importance of finding beauty in fleeting moments. It was an auditory diary of someone who, stripped of almost everything, was rediscovering the art of living one day at a time. A crucial element that emerged from these recordings was his newfound perspective on forgiveness. Initially, the predominant sentiment was one of resentment, a righteous anger at the ingratitude and abandonment. However, as time passed and with constant introspection, Joao began to comprehend the complexities of his daughter's choices. He pondered the pressures she might have been under, the personal struggles that could have clouded her capacity for empathy. This process didn't equate to condoning the abandonment, but rather to stripping the feeling of hurt from its most destructive burden, transforming it into a more compassionate, albeit still painful, understanding. He realized that harboring grudges was akin to drinking poison while hoping the other person would die, a weight he no longer needed to carry. More than that, Joao began to channel his energy into activities he previously considered secondary. He rediscovered the pleasure of gardening, meticulously tending to the few plants that remained in his backyard, finding in the earth and their growth a parallel to his own recovery. He started writing letters, not to Anna, but to old friends, salvaging forgotten connections and rekindling conversations that had been lost to time. Each letter sent was an act of reconnect, a reminder that he was still part of a network of relationships, even if that network needed to be rebuilt through his own initiatives. He dedicated himself to learning new skills, such as the art of bread making, finding satisfaction in the artisanal process and the aroma that filled the house. This phase of his life was marked by deep introspection and the redefinition of his goals. Instead of focusing on what he lacked, he concentrated on what he still possessed: his mind, his capacity to feel, his desire to learn and connect. He began sharing excerpts from his audio recordings with a small online support group for people in similar situations, discovering that his words resonated deeply with others facing loneliness and abandonment. The sharing of his vulnerabilities, paradoxically, became a source of strength, creating a sense of community and purpose he no longer expected to find. With each new recording, with each letter sent, Joao reconnected with himself and the world, proving that abandonment, though devastating, didn't have to be the end of his story. As we interweave the various facets of this narrative, we realize that the common thread emerging is not merely one of individual pain, but a broader reflection of intricate human dynamics and the fragile emotional architectures that underpin our relationships. The journey thus far has allowed us a glimpse into how resilience manifests in its purest and most unexpected contours, not as an absence of suffering, but as the very capacity to navigate through it, transforming it into a foundation for self-reconstruction. The way past experiences, present uncertainties, and future projections intertwine, shaping one's perception of reality becomes increasingly evident. In this context, we observe how the pursuit of meaning, even in moments of apparent desolation, can reconfigure an individual's inner landscape. The diverse perspectives we explore converge on the idea that vital force is not an inexhaustible resource, but something nurtured by the struggle itself, by the rediscovery of values, and by the ability to find purpose in acts that might previously have seemed trivial. It is as if, in stripping the story of its more superficial layers, we reveal a pulsating core of perseverance, an internal engine that propels existence beyond the most severe adversities. Reflecting on this journey thus far, the prevailing image is that of an individual who, confronted by the desert of solitude and the aridity of oblivion, finds within themselves the wellspring for an oasis of redefinition. The various currents of thought and the testimonies that permeate our exploration prepare us for the understanding that overcoming is not a final destination but a continuous process of adaptation and reinvention, a constant movement towards the light, even when the shadows seem densest. As we approach the denouement, the convergence of reflections on the fragility of human bonds and the indomitable strength of the spirit becomes palpable. The path that unfolds, propelled by these perceptions, points towards a deeper comprehension of the human condition and the myriad ways in which life, in its essence, strives to perpetuate itself and find meaning, even in the most challenging of scenarios. The anticipation now resides in how these ideas will crystallize into a final vision, a panorama that honors the journey undertaken and the wisdom gleaned from each stage. The twilight, which previously seemed merely a harbinger of the end, now reveals itself as an invitation to contemplation. Joao's story, woven with the threads of pain, resilience, and rediscovery, transcends the individual narrative to become a multifaceted mirror of human existence itself. It is not merely about a father abandoned by his daughter, or a man battling cancer, but a profound meditation on what it ultimately means to be alive and loved. The strength Joao discovered within himself, far from being an isolated heroic act, is a testament to the human spirit's intrinsic capacity to find light in the deepest darkness, to cultivate hope where desolation reigns. Joao's journey teaches us that abandonment, however harrowing, does not define the totality of a being. He shows us that forgiveness, more than a gift bestowed upon another, is a liberation for oneself, an unraveling of chains that bind us to resentment. By reclaiming his memories, not as a nod to the past but as a map for the present, Joao rediscovered the internal compass that guided him away from bitterness. Each inscribed word, each penned letter, each tended plant represented an act of affirmation, a silent declaration that his life still mattered, that his worth was not dictated by the presence or absence of others. The enduring impact of this narrative lies in its capacity to compel us to scrutinize the very bedrock of our own relationships. It beckons us to peer beyond superficialities, delving into the intricate complexities that shape the actions and choices of those we hold dear. The fragility Joao grappled with, and the fortitude he unearthed to surmount it, serves as a potent reminder that genuine human connection is forged not in the absence of adversity, but in the courage to navigate it collectively, imbued with empathy and understanding. The solitude he endured, and the manner in which he transmuted it into a crucible for self-discovery and renewed connection, resonates with the universal yearning for belonging and the transformative power of self-compassion. The practice, the one that truly commences now, lies not in lamenting losses, but in celebrating triumphs, however diminutive they may appear. It resides in acknowledging the inherent strength within vulnerability, in nurturing an empathy that transcends imperfections, and in extending a hand, not out of obligation, but from a profound recognition of our shared humanity. Joao's saga is an invitation to reassess our priorities, to cherish the bonds that sustain us, and to seek the light, even when the path ahead appears shrouded in darkness. May his journey inspire us to be more present, more compassionate, and more appreciative of the connections that enrich our lives, bearing in mind that love, in its most unadulterated form, is a continuous act of volition and rebirth. If you found this content valuable, please don't forget to give it a like, leave a comment, and share it with friends and family. Until the next video. Reaching the terminus of this odyssey, it is impossible to remain unmoved by the profound connection to the metamorphosis taking root within. Each utterance, each flash of insight, each contemplative pause has guided us towards an elevated state of awareness and comprehension. And it is here, in this moment of crystal clarity, that we recognize the genuine magic resides not exclusively in the knowledge acquired, but in the alchemical process by which this knowledge transmutes into action, and ultimately, into a life of greater richness and significance. Envision yourself as a garden, having endured a protracted winter, now stirring to life with the advent of spring. The carefully sown and intentionally planted seeds begin to sprout, with each passing day yielding new blossoms, fresh foliage, and burgeoning fruit. This is the very essence of the transformation we are undergoing. It is not an overnight occurrence, but rather a continuous process of growth and revelation. And just as a garden necessitates time, patience, and diligent care, our own quest for a more salubrious and vibrant existence demands these very same elements. As we progress, we realize that genuine change lies not merely in what we consume or the activities we undertake, but fundamentally in our relationship with ourselves and the world encircling us. It's a voyage of self-discovery and personal metamorphosis, inviting us to delve inward, scrutinize our deeply held beliefs, and embrace the potential for a more abundant and meaningful existence. It is within this very process that we unearth our fortitude, our resilience, and our innate capacity to cultivate a life that not only sustains us but also ignites our spirit and elevates us. Therefore, as we draw closer to the culmination of this reflection, we urge you to pause and absorb all that has been shared. Grant yourself the grace to feel the profound depth of the lessons gleaned and the exquisite beauty of the transformation unfolding within you. And bear in mind, true power resides not solely in the destination, but crucially in the journey undertaken to reach it. It is on this path that we discover our strength, our resilience, and our ability to forge a life that not only sustains us but genuinely inspires and uplifts us. And so, with hearts brimming with gratitude and minds receptive to burgeoning possibilities, we embark on the next stage. We acknowledge that the path ahead will not invariably be smooth. Challenges and impediments are to be expected. However, we are equally cognizant that we are adequately equipped with the requisite tools and knowledge to surmount any adversity. It is with this understanding that we ready ourselves for the ensuing chapter, confident that, irrespective of what may arise, we are prepared to confront and transmute. Consequently, let this serve as your impetus to commence each day with deliberate intention and unwavering purpose. May every repast be a testament to life and well-being, and may each moment of contemplation mark a step towards a more fulfilling and significant existence. And remember, the authentic practice commences presently. Every decision we make, every habit we embed, every instance of self-compassion and personal care, all these contribute to the architecture of a life that not only sustains us but profoundly inspires and elevates us. It is upon this journey that we unearth our genuine strength and our capacity to craft a life that is unequivocally our own. Therefore, as we bid farewell, please recall that you are not traversing this path in isolation. Each of us is navigating our unique course, yet we are united by a shared pursuit of a healthier, more vibrant, and more deeply satisfying life. It is in this communal experience, this profound connection, that we discover the true essence of strength and the authentic inspiration to persevere. Thus, let this be your catalyst to greet each dawn with intention and purpose, secure in the knowledge that every stride you take propels you towards a life of greater richness and significance. And may the genuine practice commence now, with each choice, each habit, and each moment dedicated to self-care. For it is within this practice that we discover our true strength and our capability to construct a life that is genuinely and irrevocably our.